All right, let's jump right in. If you're deep in your ARE studies, you know that the project budget is a beast. Getting a handle on it is, well, not just good practice. It's make or break for passing those exams. So today, we're going to break down one of the absolute core concepts you've got to master: hard costs versus soft costs.
Okay, before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's zoom out for a second. Think about it. Besides a killer design, what's the real difference between a project that's a huge success and one that becomes a total disaster?
You guessed it. It all comes down to knowing the numbers. Seriously, having a rock-solid grasp of the budget is what turns a great idea on paper into a great building in the real world. And when it comes to the AREs, that knowledge is literally the line between passing and failing.
All right, so let's start with the easy stuff, the part of the budget that makes the most sense right off the bat: the hard costs. The best way to think about this is literally bricks and mortar. We're talking about all the physical stuff you can actually see and touch on a job site. So what does that actually mean? Well, hard costs are just that: the tangible, physical expenses that go directly into building the thing. A really simple rule of thumb is if it ends up being a permanent part of the building or the site when it's all done, yep, that's a hard cost. And here are some classic examples. You've got the obvious ones, right? Site work, like excavation, all your materials, the steel, the concrete, the glass. But look closer. It's also the wages for the construction crew and the heavy machinery they use, like the cranes and bulldozers. The big takeaway here is that every single one of these is directly tied to the physical act of putting the building together. Okay, so now that we've got a handle on the physical stuff, let's flip the coin over to the other side of the budget. If hard costs are the bricks and mortar, then you can think of soft costs as the brains and bureaucracy. These are all the crucial but totally non-physical things that have to happen for the project to even exist. And that's the key word right there: intangible. You can't physically hold a building permit, right? You can't touch our design fee. But without those things, those services, those approvals, not a single shovel of dirt gets moved. Soft costs are basically the essential support system that makes all the physical work possible. I mean, look at this list. It really shows you just how much goes on behind the scenes. Of course, you've got our fees. Architectural and engineering fees are a classic soft cost, but it's also all the legal and accounting stuff, the fees you pay the city for permits and inspections, even things like project insurance and the interest on the construction loan. Every single one is absolutely vital to get the project off the ground.
Okay, so here's the million-dollar question. Why do you need to know this for the exam? Well, because the ARE, and I'm talking specifically about PPD and PDD here, isn't just going to ask you for a definition. It's going to test you on how you apply this knowledge at different stages of a project. It's all about practical application.
Let's break down how the exams look at this. Think about PPD, project planning and design. You're at the very beginning of everything. Your entire world is about feasibility. Can this project even happen? So you're using rough estimates of hard and soft costs to make that call. But then fast forward to PDD, project development and documentation. Now the project is a go. Your job has totally shifted. It's all about cost control. You're down in the weeds of the construction documents, actively managing that budget, and making sure costs don't spiral out of control. All right, let's pull all of this together into one final cheat sheet. Seriously, this is the one you're going to want to screenshot and stick in your study folder. This is where it all clicks together for the AREs. Let's just run through a couple of these to see how it works. Okay, a concrete foundation, that's a classic hard cost, right? It's going to be baked into the contractor's price. But now compare that to the architect's fee. That's a soft cost. And in the PPD exam, you're thinking, how does this fee affect whether the project is even feasible to begin with? Now jump down to window systems. That's a hard cost. But for the PDD exam, your brain is in a different place. You're thinking about the nitty-gritty details of specifying that system in the drawings and making sure it doesn't blow the budget. See? It's the same budget, but you're wearing two completely different hats depending on the project phase.
And there you have it. That's the breakdown. Look, mastering this isn't just about memorizing flashcards for the exam. It's about truly understanding the financial DNA of a building project, which really just leaves us with one final thought. Being able to identify these costs is just step one. The real question, and the mark of a true professional, is, can you actually control them? Something to think about. Good luck with this studying.